So I came up to see my buddy Mick Crowe, just to see if he'd give me a few tips there. I'm going to start shedding soon with Ralph, and Mick knows a good bit about shedding and that kind of thing, and it's no harm to have a second pair of eyes looking at you there, somebody independent, to see the things that you're not seeing. Of course, you have to be willing to listen to what he's going to tell you too. Maybe you won't like hearing it, and it's no good asking a fella for advice and then not taking it. So here, Mick there, I'm going to ask him now in a second what he says and see if he's any suggestions for me there and what he's seeing. You're after seeing me shedding there now. What do you think of that there? What would you make of that?
Yeah, I think you have a young dog, and naturally enough, the young dog is anxious. So the whole key, the secret I learned when I was a young fella, when I started off in this business, I had a very good dog. Well, I had some very bad dogs, but I had one particular very good dog, and I ruined him shedding because I tried too hard, and I expected too much of the young dog too soon, and as a result I used to get excited and maybe lose the head a little bit, and of course that tension travelled down into the dog, and it was very frustrating for myself and the dog and the sheep. So if you were agitated when you're going to shed, or if you get excited, that goes it goes through the dog and it goes through the sheep. Sheep aren't silly, they can read the way the situation is going, and sheep tend to know when there's a young dog about too. If they're dog sheep, they'll know that this lad isn't really, he hasn't got the same control maybe as an older dog, and they can mess around a little bit.
So do you think sheep could be taking advantage of him a bit?
I'd say that sheep would take a little bit of advantage at times, and I think that the whole key to it is have your dog calling up. I suppose we don't spend enough time, and the more dogs we train, we might lose a little bit of the basic thing, which is, I suppose, the first thing we teach any young dog, or should do, and I'm guilty of it as well, is lie down, that'll do to come in, because it's the sort of keystone to the whole training process. If you can stop your dog and you can get your dog to come straight to you, well then, even if the dog, then when you're going to shed, you make the gap, the dog comes through. Even if the dog doesn't accept the sheep, the dog will get used to coming through, and then of course you'll turn left or right and start a process of teaching him how to shed. But if he has the confidence to come through, that's the key to it. That he's not under any duress or any stress when he's shedding, and everything is fantastic, everything is lovely. He's coming to you for a pet or whatever, and he's coming through the sheep.
What are you saying then? To get him good at stopping and coming to you and just keeping that all positive, like?
Yes, most definitely. I think the key to training border collies is, of course, you have to have the material, but you definitely need to be able to stop the dog. If you're not able to stop the dog and you're not able to get the dog to come straight to you, well, it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Well, I could see that in the shedding there. That if I can get him set up for a shed and the dog takes one step forward, he's not taking his stop clean, sure he undoes it all, doesn't he?
Well, he does. He puts pressure on the sheep, he puts pressure on you, and you get agitated then, because the thing is, I suppose you're losing control. That's what's happening. If you have the old dog lying down, like we're all guilty of it, and there's nobody at this job that wouldn't tell you any different. You can make a mess of the shed, everybody can make a mess of the shed, but I suppose if you think about it, you have your dog lying down, you have the sheep settled, you make a bit of a gap, the dog will come through if the thing is relaxed. If the dog is under pressure, and if you're under pressure and the sheep are under pressure, well, it's not going to be a sweet job, it's going to be a difficult job.
Well, that's where I'm at now with the Ralph lad.
It's alright for a prolific dog, but for it's alright for a dog that's trained. A trained dog, they can mess up too, but at least they know the score. But if a young dog is feeling tension to come through, he's not going to come through. Simple as that.
Well, Mick, you see where I'm at with the white lad. I've got the tension, the stop's not that clean, and the whole lot is pressure. What's the next step for me?
The next step I would say to you is I would spend a little bit of time teaching that dog to lie down and to come straight back to us. And that's very important, because we always say that, like, to get the dog to come straight to you. Well then, naturally enough, anything to do with training sheepdogs, we're always saying it, and you say it as well, is common sense. Well, if the dog will lie down and come straight to you, regardless of the sheep, well, you have a much better chance then when you have the sheep there that the dog is lying down. You make the gap, and you don't make a big deal out of it. You get the dog to come through the gap to you. That's
and what you're saying, one step at a time, come through the gap.
Yes.
Forget about the rest, just come through the gap.
Yeah, come through the gap, and then get him used to doing that, and then you can turn on to your sheep. Yeah. But like, if he's not going to come through, you're not going to shed. It's fairly straightforward.
Well, what's the first thing then is have a good stop so that you can start setting up. Then when you set up, make the gap, just focus on him coming through. Forget the rest. Just
Forget the rest.
get him happy coming flying through.
That's what I would suggest anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's where me and Ralph are at now, and
Yeah,
that's
well,
the thing
that-
I need to
yeah,
go
I
on.
mean, that's the way that you'd see it. And I suppose, see, the better you get at this sheepdog handling and training stuff, we're all guilty. We might leave out a little piece of the puzzle, and if you leave out a little piece of the puzzle,
You have to go
normally
back.
it comes back and bites you on the ass, and that's unfortunate. And it's the same for me. I do it as well myself. I think I know it all, and I try and start training young dogs, and I leave out a bit, and the next thing I'm doing something, and I'm saying, why isn't he doing that? And then I think, sure, the reason he's not doing it is because I didn't teach him to do it.
Yeah, so the shortcuts don't work.
Shortcuts don't work.
Yeah, always have to go back.
And that, I would say, is the most important thing. The old stop and the calling back to you. If you have the material, I mean, we know that. If you have the dog to do it, definitely.
And you saying, Mick, regardless of shedding, if you had a bit of advice for someone that was new at it,
Yes.
well, you'd say just focus on getting that stop clean.
I would focus on a dog that you can stop for lots of different applications, be it shedding or any sort of work.
Penning or anything,
Safety
yeah.
reasons, if the dog was going to run out on the road in front of a car, if you have a good stop on him, you can prevent that happening. Or if you're working sheep near a cliff edge or something like that, and you have a good stop on the dog, you can stop the scenario from happening. So
Yes.
it's probably the most important thing, I think, now at this stage of my life training dogs. I think the stop is the most important thing. A good clean stop, yes.
Well, thanks for that, Mick. I have plenty to go off and work on there now. At least I have a plan. I like to know what the steps are, and you made that good and clear.
No
Thanks,
problem.
mister.
You're welcome, Paddy.
So with Ralph, it's a little bit like in the early days on the round pen, not wanting to let go of his flank. He's a bit the same here, and he's slow to call in, but that'll change.